Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Hey everybody, I am live today with Shelby Joe Long, and we're going to be talking about the importance of visibility and how you can get more of it with PR. So before we even get into some detailed questions, tell us, Shelby, what is PR and why are you somebody who loves talking about it?
What is PR? What a good question. PR is something that everybody should be considering, especially if they want to get in front of their ideal clients. And so that doesn't answer what it is, but it is something that we all need to think about as business owners, because there's a lot of competition out there for attention, and there's many spaces where we're inundated with advertisements and media, and we as business owners need to think about how to present ourselves best to our ideal clients. So really, that's fundamentally what it is public relations, how you serve your potential clients, what transformation do you provide for your potential clients, and what is your brand? So who are you? What problem do you solve? And how can you make that evident to the audience that needs to hear it? The reason I am a person that really loves to talk about PR is because my whole business is brand strategy. How do you and your brand stand out in the noise of media? And how does your brand provide that transformation for your audience? And when you make that connection, it's a lot easier to generate clients, create a community, create the transformation movement that you want to inspire. I think it's really important to think about. There's lots of different tools for it. So
for sure. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how did you get into what you do today, and what's kind of your story?
Yeah, story very quickly. It's not too lengthy, but my background is I'm a communication studies professor, and I have been for 17 years. But even longer than that, I've been involved in the world of college debate, which is an interesting specialty, but I have created a business out of it. And it really informs messaging, and it informs communication. And that as a business owner, you need to think about how that message resonates with your audience. And you need to think about the needs of your audience and what your ideal clients are thinking about and how you can resonate and how you can communicate with them. So that's really where it started, in the communication discipline. And then I've been teaching it for a long time, and I've transitioned that into a business. So I work with businesses on their communication strategy and their brand strategy and how to best communicate to their clients. So that's kind of my background. Nice. Now I have my own business in communication and brand strategy, but then I'm affiliated with lots of other businesses too, to be able to make the biggest impact you can in the media.
I love it. Amazing. So if somebody wants to get out there and be more visible, how did they decide what form of PR might be best for them? And maybe what are some unseen, or underrated forms of PR?
Sure. It all begins with your audience. It all begins with who you want to speak to, who you want to communicate with, whether that is, and that influences what type of press that you want, like what type of magazine you want to be in, where is your ideal client going to read, what type of topics how can you get in front of people What kind of topics do they read about? Where are they going to read? So it's kind of a deeper dive into your audience and where they hang out and what interests them and what they want to think about. So it's a deep dive into not only the demographics of your audience, but also into the psychographics of your audience. Where do they spend their time? Are they on social media? What platforms are they on? What are they on, LinkedIn or Facebook? Or do your audience tend to be in groups? Maybe your audience isn't even virtual. Maybe you are a local business that's trying to build a local community. And then that completely changes your strategy because you're more in person and in front of people. So the strategy depends entirely on where your audience is and what you can do. Some things that we don't often think about, because we think about PR as always, being in the New York Times or being on these big podcasts. And that is a part of it, is being on podcasts, and that's part of visibility. But some things that we don't think about are just even the consistent messages that we put out every day. The first place that people go when they want to research who they want to work with is social media. So making sure just that your brand is consistent across those platforms and that you're sending the same messages on those platforms than you do in your press. I think that's really important. I also think a really good way to think about PR is more active. So how can you speak in front of audiences, and how can you be known as an expert in the area? Also, how can you use that speaking reels and videos to be more active and show that you're in that space? PR isn't just about having articles in magazines, even though that's a part of it because it establishes credibility, but people have to see you in action. It's an active thing. I think that's important to think about.
Totally. So I know for a couple people who are in my world have been like featured in Forbes or have been featured somewhere big, and they can put on their website featured in blank, blank, blank.
Absolutely.
And it kind of has this indirect way of giving you immediate social proof, giving you immediate like status. But I would say directly, the people I've talked to who have done that, I was in Forbes or whatever, they're like, I don't know, like nothing really came of it or whatever. So what are your thoughts on like, what are some of the intangible benefits and tangible benefits of PR? And do we really need a big publication to make it, like, tell me a little more about that.
Again, I would say that it all depends on your audience. So with certain audience members, it will make a difference. So if you're working with a multi-million-dollar company, maybe having an article in Forbes is something that you want to invest in because it puts you in that expert level. If you are a local dentist that is trying to get in front of audiences, you don't need to think about those things. It's like you probably wouldn't put your picture on like a bus bench, right? So it's just like, you got to think about those things, about what types of visibility work best. And you might not see the immediate effect of that or the immediate ROI of that, but it does add to your credibility, and it adds to and again, it all depends on your sphere. Your sphere might not care about that, but some spheres do, and some offers do care about that. If you are a published author or you want to be a published author, having a bestseller helps you in your PR and your visibility because it shows that many people have read your book or at least bought your book. So it does add to it, but it just depends on your audience. So, and you might not see the immediate ROI on getting an article in Forbes, but if you can say you were featured there, then that adds to your credibility. So it does become more intangible. And then we also have to remember the rule of thumb is that people used to be able to, been in the communication space for a long time. If we see something 7 times, then we're going to remember it. But now it's more like 20, 25 times. So it's like, we just have to remember about that consistency and remember about that we need to keep our message consistent and say things that are relevant to the audience. So because we're just inundated with so much on social media and in news, I mean, just so much is going on. So,
yeah. Well, I've even heard you have to see it 77 times nowadays because
that wouldn't surprise me.
Are so short. Yeah. So when you say it depends on your audience, I totally get that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think that sometimes what I've seen, like, because I had an article that was like, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but like most people think it is a big deal because it was a publication or whatever. And I shared it on social media. I was shocked at just the power of perception. Like people were like, "Oh my God, like you made it" and stuff. I was just like, I don't know, like that. Like to me, if I saw it, it's all about the person. For me, that doesn't like blow my mind or anything. For other people, if they see that, for some reason, to the general public, like you suddenly get like clout. So it's I think it's important. A theme here is to not think about what you think is cool or not cool or a big deal or not a big deal, but think about your audience and think about also what matters to you. Like, so the people who were commenting and stuff aren't really my ideal clients. It was just like supporters in my life. You know what I mean? So was it the best thing ever? I don't know, because it was more just like, oh, my friends and family realize I have a business now, that I'm not like, a random, not doing anything. So I don't know. I think it's a very interesting thing what PR can do for your brand. What are some examples if somebody wanted to get visible? Let's say they are, they know, like, let's use an example. I work with a lot of health coaches or life coaches. Mm-hmm. Let's say they want to get visible and they want to book high ticket clients. What would you suggest to them to get started and start being more visible? And let's say they have their social media accounts set up already. They're all good there.
They're all good there. I would say there's a few strategies. I would say to be active in your speaking and to make sure that you have your speaking, because when you speak and when you're invited to speak or when you speak in front of audiences and you can engage audiences and provide them valuable messages, that's where you're going to gain the credibility. Like a Forbes article is going to give you that instant credibility, but when they actually see you in action, that's where they can do it. The TEDx talk is a good way to do that. The TEDx has that kind of instant credibility feel to it. And, it does have some qualification standards for it too. But if you have a TEDx and a speaker reel and you're being in front of audiences, I think that is a way to speak to the higher end. You talk about clients that make higher end offers. You have to be positioned as an expert that can help them get what they want. And so that's where thinking about speaking and being featured. My company was featured in Forbes a while ago, and which was a blessing because I'm involved with this company, and then I have the stamp of Forbes behind me. And again, you don't know if it's instant, but it just adds to that feeling of credibility. And particularly when you're getting into those higher end offers and you want to make those higher end offers, that credibility is really important because that helps you stand out. The key thing to think about is what is going to differentiate me against my competitors, because there's a lot of people looking to work with those high ticket clients. But if you can differentiate yourself with your speaking, with your platform, by talking about your values, talking about your transformation, and you can be in front of your audience, that's really what's going to make a difference. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry.
That's okay.
So how can somebody go about getting those opportunities? Or if they're like, okay, I want to do a TEDx talk, where do I even start?
Yeah.
What would be some steps?
The TEDx has a database, but one of your easiest first steps would be to contact me, because I have access to TEDx organizers and I am one myself. And so that would be a good thing to talk about. I also have this program called Authentic Genius, where we're featuring women entrepreneurs and helping them enter their brand into the marketplace. It's a series of speaking opportunities. There's magazine articles, magazine features. There's a co-authored book. And, you talk about things to add some credibility to your brand. Being a published author is one thing that is. And especially when you're in a co-authored book around your genius idea and how that can transform in the marketplace. That makes a big difference. So those are just some small things, but this Authentic Genius program is over about a year. And what that does is it puts you on the path to develop all of these branding assets and all these public relations assets to be able to use over and over again to express your brand. And then it's yours and you're able to do that. We have that program too. And I think that's something that you're in a group, you're developing something consistently, and you're going to get actual assets that you can use in your social media, in your marketing campaigns. You know, PR is something about what, you know, when you're on media, when you're being interviewed and you're on other podcasts or on other television shows, all of those things we have access through the Authentic Genius program. So I'd say that's where you start, but there's resources out there to find TEDx speaking opportunities and to even host yourself. So
nice. Any big mistakes you see when somebody's like, oh, I want to be more visible and do PR?
Not being consistent with their message and not being consistent with who they are. Not being consistent with isn't the right word. Not being consistent with your message is one thing, but I think also not telling your story. We remember as communicators, you know, people don't want to be sold to all day long. They want to create a connection with people, and they want to trust people and people that they're going to do business with. And telling your story is a really important part about that. And using your story, not to use your story, but using your story and particularly using your transformation and your growth. And that's all part of what you can do for other people. So I think those are the biggest mistakes that
Yeah. Oh, shoot, you froze. Oh, no. She's frozen. But if you are listening live, it sounds like you need to be consistent with your message and consistent with storytelling, and rather than just selling. So I think we're going to wrap this up because we are right about at the end. But if you do... Oh, Shelby, are you there? Okay, you froze completely. So
yeah, it stopped. So
okay. So you're back. So you were just saying that telling your story and not, you know, just selling all the time, and we want to trust. Yeah. You want to add anything else?
Yeah, just that it's so important to create that authentic connection with people, and the authentic connection and really creating a relationship with people. People are tired of being sold to. We're sold to all the time. Create that authentic connection, and then just let the sale come from that. So
amazing. I love it.
Tell your story, match it to your needs of your client.
Love that. So how can people get in touch and check you out after today's live?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Shelby Jo Long, and you can find, that's also my website, shelbyjolong.com, and you can find all the resources there that you need. I also have a YouTube channel called the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast. And that's kind of fun to listen to. I talk to entrepreneurs that have created businesses out of their own genius. I love speaking and being in front of people. I have a TEDx. I gave a TEDx in April. It's not published yet, but it will be out soon. So it's, yeah, you can find me anywhere on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and my website.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.